Hello and welcome to The Blueprint. I'm your host, Marley Finnegan. And before we dig in, please click like and subscribe below. No matter where you get your podcast, it helps us to reach more people. Also, consider leaving us a small donation, whether that be $1, $5 via one of the links below. It really helps us in funding the creation of this work. And it means a lot to know that you're out there and that you like us. So let's dig in.
Welcome to the Blueprint Within. I am your host, Marley Finnegan, and I'm thrilled today to be with my new friend, Susanna Calvert, otherwise known as Sanna, founder of Foundation for Family and Community Healing and Sanctuary of Earth. She's a spiritual and intuitive guide, a teacher, and a TV show host. She does so many beautiful things, and I have been really fortunate to be in conversation, have a reading from her, and just really am filled up by the work that you do. So, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me, Marley. I'm also filled up by your vision and what you're bringing into the world, and so delighted to have a new friend and to be able to share space on your podcast with you,
Yeah.
community. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, we have recently connected and we've connected so much that we've had like multiple calls in just a matter of a few weeks. The work you are doing and bringing into the world is feels so aligned with everything that I believe and see and feel. And I would love to talk about your sort of spiritual beginnings and your childhood and sort of what led you to the path that you are on, including sort of what spiritually your gifts are in terms of what you're creating. You're creating a lot, and it all is really, really important.
Well, thank you for that beautiful invitation and prompt. I'll try to keep this something more at the Reader's Digest level. So the story begins with my parents who were refugees from communist China, and so as a result, I was raised with the Chinese American values, but also unstated trauma for decades. So I just did the good Chinese American daughter thing and was going down my happiness checklist. And when I checked off the last thing on my to-do list, I realized I'd ruined my life. So
Mhm.
that last thing was tenure at a research university, and I decided I couldn't do it anymore, so I gave tenure back. And I was fortunate because I had the privilege and the flexibility to go on a search for myself, because if this wasn't the purpose of my life, what was? And so it was a beautiful shift into searching for my authenticity. And one of my aha moments, which is probably evident to pretty much every listener here, is if I want to be happy, I should follow my heart. So the old me, Susanna, wouldn't have even known what to think about that. So I eventually ended up switching gears and realized I had a passion for leadership, professional and personal development. So I went back to school, got all these coaching credentials, started developing programming at the university, got my dream job, got remarried. Um, I was married to a Chinese American physician. So, I mean, I think that was two checkbox worths. Um, and, and, um, and I was just living the dream, like just feeling like I was in the fullness of who I was when disaster struck, because 18 months into this beautiful dream life, I was coming back from my sister's funeral when we learned of my husband's stage 4 cancer, and he had only just gotten married 4 years prior. So I had an immediate spiritual awakening after being an atheist my whole life. And so I was like, I'm going to bring the heavens to help my husband heal. And so I just like did a deep dive into my spiritual path, and I realized my gifts started to come in, and one of the first things that came in was clairaudience. And so I was able to just communicate with my guides from almost, pretty quickly. Um, and I also was invited to, after having a Reiki session, the healer told me that a grandmother energy came in and invited me to call her grandmother and that she would teach me her medicine. And she was from an ancient time somewhere in Asia. So I interpreted that to be an energy, something from my ancestry. I'm of Chinese descent. as I mentioned. And when I became attuned in Reiki, I could feel her energy moving through me from the get-go, really immediately. And so that was sort of the start of my practices and my connection with spirit. And about the time that Chris passed away 7 months later, my guides invited me to my mission. And I'm like a mission from God. So, I'm a recovering atheist. Mission from God.
I also love how I feel like spirit and like the spirit team, my team is like such jokesters. Like even that in itself is like, oh, okay, crash course. We're
Yeah.
going straight in for God's mission.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, I figured I had nothing to lose. My life felt over. And they invited me to start by starting a nonprofit, the Foundation for Family and Community Healing, which is to fill the gap that I saw in our communities in terms of what our kids and the adults in the community needed to be successful citizens of humanity and Earth. Huge gap, including like the resilience skills that I had to learn myself the hard way. So I launched that, and they guided me to start Sanctuary of Earth, which is about spiritual skill development to support what I feel to be a spiritual renaissance. My energy medicine kept developing. I learned to read tarot quite by accident. They also said, "You're going to be teaching tarot." And I'm like, what, to faculty? It was like my worst nightmare. So, and of course I'm teaching all of it now and I love it. And so this is leading me to putting all of this together, the psychosocial, emotional, spiritual together for learning for whoever wants to participate. This is scalable learning programs. I hope eventually. Some of it's still it's all in development still, but also my one-on-one work where I work with people who are generally waking up to their soul's purpose, and they have a sense of being at uneasy and confused, and usually that's the signal that it's clarity is being called for and invited in, and they just need a little guidance to get their chakras cleared, release some of the beliefs that are keeping them stuck so that they can sense more fully into their divine purpose and divine gifts, and step into the world for what, in my view, is probably the reason, they chose to incarnate in the first place. So it's a beautiful time. So many of us are waking up and finding each other, which is the juicy part, because, just sort of doing it on our own is like, it's
hard.
Scary, it's sad, yeah. And when we find each other, beautiful souls who just like when you and I met, it's like, oh yes, we've been waiting for this moment. And it's just so beautiful. And I'm so grateful.
Oh my gosh, me too. And there's so many aspects to your story that are so invigorating and I want to dive into. And I kind of want to start with the grandmother. In sacred Andean rites, they talk about in the Mune Kai rites about how every healer has the lineage of all healers, past, present, and future, within their healing abilities, and that our hands are such gateways to energetic channels through space and time, with the assistance and with the support of all these loved ones and all these people who really were operating from the heart, the soul, the heart, and that centered presence. And so I love the idea of the grandmother, and it sounds to me, I have like chills. It's very ancient energy. And I would love to hear more about sort of the gifts that came online for you through that experience, and also what has come through for me really recently and is becoming so clear is like, even when you are energetically, you are tapped into a lot of the clairs and your gifts and your energetic understanding, we still are all here as this web of support to be able to mirror and reflect when the energy gets cloudy, or help to clear that for others. Because as you mentioned, when we have such confusion and lack of clarity, it's really energetic baggage, whether that be emotional, ancestral, or anything. It could be even other people's energy that we've absorbed, right? So really becoming energetically aware and very sovereign, but also in tune, like detailed, tapped into ourselves and even the words and thoughts and ideas in our mind that maybe go off course of what we truly believe. And those being keys to understanding, oh, there's some energetic interference here. And it's not something to fear, but something that we have our web of healers, our web of, resources and network and even earth to work with. So would love to hear about sort of what grandmother brought in for you in terms of your physical gifts, your understanding, and then how that helped inform, the Foundation for Family and Community Healing's work and Sanctuary of Earth. And I guess that, it sounds to me like the foundation is more for all types of resilience work and like you said, psycho-spiritual, physical, mental, almost like day to day, where the Sanctuary of Earth is more spiritually skill focused. Is that, sorry, I'm like asking you 5 questions at a time, but can you go with that?
We'll flow, sister. Um, yeah, thank you. The grandmother was, first and foremost, it was just the ability to feel and understand and move energy in a way that the Reiki training didn't do. Reiki is a beautiful energy, and this is just a different style. And I loved what you said about the Moonai Ki. I might be mispronouncing it. That we can feel energy with our hands, but for me, yin, I can feel it with my whole body.
Mhm.
And when I teach yin as well, we get into our bodies and we develop our clairsenses because we can see and feel and taste it. And I love to dance when I'm doing energy work. It might be a very dancey thing because that's fluid and it's relational, whereas allopathic medicine is very linear and
Yeah, I love that.
structured. And so yin is literally more yin. It's more fluid and interactive, relational, receptive, creative, and all energy medicine's multidimensional because you can't see it. But I sense that yin can really, really tends to go into the more subtle energies, like the next, like yin 2.0 is coming into me now for the past year, and it's like really at the quantum level. And it also works on ancestral healing. Like I could feel portals in people's bodies.
Mm.
And it's almost like they're just carrying the trauma of their lineage, or there's probably other things besides trauma that are being carried, but it's like a cork. And when they're ready to step into their purpose, like the cork comes out, they can heal all of that, and then they can move forward with the gift. So that's what it feels like. It's like that trauma is there to keep us in place until the moment. And it doesn't ever have to do with anything like we should have known better. It's none of that. It's all divine timing and manner. And it's just a mile marker for the next stage. The grandmother has also been teaching me, I believe, but in a less explicit way, about honing into the other ancient Chinese and Asian practices around that are Taoist and Buddhist. So I'm not a practicing Buddhist or Taoist, but I would say the principles of that yin and yang and integration and balance and flow very much guide everything for me, my entire worldview, and how and the way the teachings have come forth, because it's not about saying we need to flip 180 and go the opposite direction. It's saying we need to move towards the middle and allow it to flow back and forth in between, like between the cognitive, which is the left brain, and the right brain, which is the yin, the subjective, the spiritual, the embodied, all of that. And so we're meant to do both. And when we're healthy and in balance, we flow back and forth, and it's integrative and dynamic. When we're sick or stuck, we're probably too much in one end or the other. And so, yeah, I feel like the teachings come through in subtle ways. And I believe that this is really an imperative, well, just a beautiful invitation as a way to think about what healing can be without it being dogmatic, because we have to discover our own balance for ourselves. Um, and I do feel that like some of the things that we were taught, the programming that you were talking about, and stuff that's not necessarily ours, but are stuck in our energy, stuck in our belief systems, we can reconsider all that. It's not to say that all our beliefs are wrong, we should go to the opposite side. No, that's just doing the same bad thing in a different way. But what the invitation is to be conscious and aware, and to be grounded as we discern instead of reacting. So we discern and respond instead of just being reactive. And so getting to know ourselves on that deeper level is really important, bringing our beliefs and habits up from our subconscious into our awareness. And then again, decide, what do I do with this? Like this belief, it has some truth, but it's not the truth. And in fact, it has some lie to it. And it's not the lie, but there's something in between. Like, where am I in this particular situation? And what is most healthy and generative and constructive, loving and kind, if those are the values we want to include, so that we can choose instead of being just ruled by a reptilian brain. And so that deeper inner work is so important for us to just pull out the things that are keeping us stuck and fearful, separated, and to love them back into ourselves in a way that we can become more whole each time we do that exploration. We can heal.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Sanna, so much wisdom there. And it's really, I love what you said about the portal within that you've sent in people, because also, and I'm just reading these Munakai rites, and what I love about them is they really talk about the wounded healer, and that it's our own pain and trauma and healing and the working through the shadow of those aspects in which we become able to really deeply empathize with the pain and the, healing and the trauma of others. And I always have talked about in the blueprint, sort of tracing the trail of trauma. And it's again not meant to relive it, but it's meant to honor that energy that is still in existence. And there are some things that we will never fully heal from. There are some pains that we will hold on to, but they have the ability to shift and change, and also just to be honored for what they are. And that pain is a part of the human experience. And it's actually what gives that polarity of all the pleasure and all the happiness. And I think that it's with healing and with even spiritual awakening, like, I don't think it comes without crazy pain and crazy, like unbelievable realizations about both the world, the nature of reality, the programming that we have been, the societal constructs that really don't live in truth. And what you said about sort of raising those things up from our subconscious to our consciousness, which, the subconscious is powerful. I mean, it's what is more powerful than our conscious minds, in many, many ways. So, but for me, it's like, I think the new earth is that anchor of the heart as truth, and like really running everything through that heart wisdom, which to me is like where the soul speaks, and that heart coherence of, is it true? Is it true for me? Is that my actual belief? Is that what my soul believes? Or is that something that I have, been told since I was 5 years old? Or is it something, and really even within that limiting belief, dissecting it to, even pieces, like, where's the resistance of me letting go of this? Why do I resist it? What keeps me feeling safe about it? There's so many aspects of that. And I love too what you said about the dancing and the yin energy, because who I was trained, the Reiki that I was trained in was originated from masculine China, so that makes so much sense. And also dancing is how energy moves. It's like movement is energy movement. So I just love your perspective and your practice there. I would love to hear more about sort of how and who is the foundation currently serving? Where are you finding success? How are people finding you? Along with sort of, well, we'll start there.
Yeah, well, we're still in early stages. The foundation is for anyone who is ready to do the inner work and go deeper, and to transmute knowledge into behavior. So and who have the willingness and ability to do it now. I mean, it does take effort, and it is not something that everybody wants to do because we're still addicted to our quick fixes. So where we've had most luck in finding community uptake are finding like-minded souls who understand that the quick fixes are doing more harm than good, and that there's real suffering going on, and that we can work together to bring tools and strategies that actually can help to change people's lives. So right now we have a youth program that's gaining traction. It's called Resilient Youth Leaders. And so we created lesson plans for our course, which is basically a personal leadership course. It's called Relationship Wellbeing. There's a youth version, and it's basically about your relationship with yourself and others. It starts with yourself. So when you're in healthy relationship with yourself, then you can manage yourself. So we're sharing this on a even for using an organizational scholarship model so that communities everywhere can access it. And so right now we've just been doing it through our network and our allies, and we're building teams who are championing this in the community. And we're going to be developing a caregiver / parent curriculum to go with it, and same thing, they can go hand in hand together. So otherwise, our learning platform has been mostly adopted by government agencies. So we have a partnership with the City of Richmond, the Office of Behavioral Health, and the Health District of Richmond and Henrico, an adjacent county. And so we're the curriculum providers for the Trauma Healing Response Network. So we work to say, what does this community need to prevent and heal trauma? And so they gave me their wish list, and we took what we had and filled the gaps. And so our curriculum is pretty much complete. And so we're looking to share those offerings with other organizations and communities that are interested. And so there's some others coming in who have global visions that we're starting to develop for us to be the curriculum providers for mental health or integrative health, or or for creating peace and harmony in the world.
Wow, amazing. Are you, in terms of sort of resilience, and are there any statistics around lowering of crime or lowering of, is there any sort of, I guess, beneficial statistics around these children and the benefits that they're receiving, or, the city of Richmond? Because, obviously there's so much talk about mental health and well-being associated with different types of crimes, and in indigenous communities. They really look at, when there is a crime or some sort of an outlier in mental health, they look at the community as the foundational reason. Like, where within the community did we not show up for this individual? So far as there was one case where a young man murdered another young man, and that the community decided that the young man who was the murderer had to go live as the child of the person, or the people who he murdered. And that was the community penance of learning. But so I think this sounds like an incredible tool for municipalities, for different types of schools, to be able to support mental health. Do you have statistics yet, or is it too early to really have that type of data?
Well, the data we have just speaks to how much the participants have appreciated and benefited from the programs. So we have over 90% would recommend it to others, even the teenagers, if you can believe it.
Wow, amazing.
But the work is all based on empirically developed topics and practices. So, we're just building, even the resilience. I don't know if it's a movement, but a lot of it has come out of the positive psychology um, uh, community. And so, most of our work is based on things that have been shown to benefit people in terms of their ability to thrive and to rise above challenge and to live a better life. And even this, excuse me, the social and emotional health is so important to even your physical well-being. Of course, I know you know that, but we sometimes think of them as separate, but they're very integrative and interdependent. And relationships is one of the number one predictors on somebody's ability to be successful and happy and healthy. It's just really so underrated, and it's no surprise to me that we are having such a crisis of isolation and loneliness, given how disconnected and unhealthy we are. That I'm sure one affects the other both ways, but that might be the bigger crisis, really, even
Yeah.
about mental health and other things, because the relationships are so foundational to who we are. Relationship is also such a part of the spiritual, right? Because us being in relationship with everything and our sense of meaning and purpose, right? It's all about our connection. It's so critical. And when we feel safe and seen and heard and loved, whether it's by the divine or other humans or nature, whatever it is, our bodies can relax. We are not so stressed and angry or fearful or depressed, and we can just function better in the world. There's a lot of research around this kind of thing, and fortunately more and more about the spiritual, which has really been overlooked for the most part until recently.
It is wild. It feels like science is finally recognizing the spiritual dimension and particularly the quantum dimension of reality in ways that have, I mean, there have been Nobel Prizes on it in the past, but it is fortunate that that is being incorporated into, well-being. We are a tribal people. And my friend Noel always says, the key to happiness is really having purpose, identity, and belonging within a group, within a purpose, within a bigger meaning. And right, I think sort of this notion of productivity and money as the sole compass of our economic systems and of our societal systems, money and productivity are not spiritually fulfilling. No matter how much you make or how much you do, if you don't have this spiritual, emotional dimension of that supporting you, there is something missing. I've experienced that personally in my own life. And I love that intention. I love that people are feeling and receiving such goodness from it. And it feels like that has huge legs to support the world. I want to talk about the spiritual skill development that's also happening through Sanctuary of Earth. And, I think you and I both agree, and we talk a lot about the energetic awareness and energetic wisdom that is really so key to where we are going as a species and on the planet. But what do you feel and what do you see is the biggest sort of needs for people's understanding in that realm?
Understanding of
Just in the spiritual skill development realm you're
okay.
working.
Yeah, well, I think it's just the ability to notice where there's dissonance or disconnect or restlessness or sense that it's not working, and being willing to look around, because we tend to get stuck, a little myopia, and that's really very normal. Like my best friend and I, like, we laugh about this thing. Like, she goes, sometimes I'm just like going like this, and she says, Sanna, like, my head hurts. And I'm like, well, stop hitting your head, you know? And she's one of the wisest women I know. And like, she's that for me and I'm that for her. And so sometimes I feel like it's just our willingness to, stop and to breathe a little bit and go, notice that this isn't working. And why isn't it working? What do I want instead? And then be willing to be open and look around and see what's available. And it's hard to do because, a lot of people in the world are going 60 miles an hour, 20 hours a day or whatever. But to the degree that we can notice that there's something missing and that there must be a solution for it, or an app for it, like, oh, there must be an app for that. Well, there must be a community for that, or a teachings or something. And that if our psyche will allow us to explore following our heart, following what feels exciting and nourishing and in resonance, or in other words, as Joseph Campbell would say, follow our bliss. If we allow ourselves to follow our bliss, then we can find our new path. Unfortunately, I feel like many people feel like their faith or their spirituality it's prescribed. And, I guess that's a cultural construct, but to that extent, it seems like there could be some wiggle room in there, but I don't really know. I feel like it could be really hard if your faith says you have to do it like this, and you don't feel like there's much wiggle room.
Mhm.
I just hold folks like that in my heart and hope that they can find their comfort and their peace and their truth within the confines of their circumstances.
Totally. And that to me, anytime that you feel boxed in by something, feels to me that there's a fear-based mechanism operating within it or around it. And I think to your other point, earlier, we have this construct of happiness in America, that happiness is this thing that we should be seeking all the time. And, the way that the very first blueprint, we talk about the circle of life. And literally, I mean, it sounds like we're in the Lion King, but it's just that we always have the bottom side of the circle to go through, no matter who you are and how much you've healed or how much you've done. And that's the thing. No matter, energy is omnipresent and always moving everywhere and at every moment. So even if you have done your best to clear, you can be out at a thing and pick up some weird energy, or you can also just have stuff that is deep in the subconscious that needs to come out and through. And that knowing that it is a part of the human experience to be flawed, and to have these times where you're just like, well, shit, this is not clicking for me and this is not flowing for me. And that's why I think it's so important to work with healers and develop a spiritual network of resources that you feel drawn to and connect to, for teachers and for energetic support and for wisdom. Because that the more that you align with these people, first of all, there's a reciprocal financial benefit when you're putting that money out into these goodness that you want to see in the world. That money will come back to you in a different, nuanced way, or something else besides money that is just as beneficial will come back to you. But just this like allowance of us to be messy and to be like, shit, we don't know. Like, I don't know. I mean, this eclipse season, I have been working on Virgo. Virgo is my house of money in my birth chart. So I have been on this crash course with hardcore, deep subconscious, brutal money realizations, even past lives where I was murdered, like all this stuff. And it's painful and it sucks. And I've been dealing with money stuff, very big. It's uncomfortable, but also at the same time, 2 days ago, it was a shit day, and yesterday and today, it's amazing. Like, life is amazing. You know what I mean? So it's like, just keep on keeping on and use your network and your web of wisdom, to support you. And I want to talk more about your tarot gifts. We had an amazing reading, and I actually was thinking today I'm going to revisit that recording because so much came through really strong for me. And you like we were really talking about the sacred waters within us, which to me, I'm feeling very called to be with the water, work with the water in new ways around grief and around processing emotions. But talk about where and how you said you kind of like accidentally or you just began reading tarot and what that has brought, and also you have a TV show called Tarot for Starseeds. So how did you come across that opportunity?
Yeah. Well, so the way tarot happened was I was mindlessly reading through one of these little articles online, and the 20 things from Amazon that changed our life. And it was right around the holidays. So, and I'm like, well, if it's under $25, I just buy stuff without worrying about it. And so eventually I get this box in the mail, and it's a box of tarot cards. And I'm like, what is this? And I was like, oh yeah, I must have ordered it. I looked back and it said, improve your intuition. And atheist me was like, well, who wouldn't want to do that? So right after that, Chris got his diagnosis about his cancer. And
Mm.
so so I realized I had this tool, and I just started drawing cards for myself and using the little book. And eventually when I learned it, I learned that I could have conversations with the divine energies. And like I might ask the same question 3 times and pull the exact same card 3 times in a row, which is statistically like minusculely, likely to happen. So I gradually convinced myself that this wasn't just a fluke. And so, but I was sort of a hack at it until my spiritual teacher, whose spirit said I could finally get one after I ruined my life. My spiritual teacher passed away, and she bequeathed her deck to me. And
Mm.
so um, it wasn't until then that I really felt like I could read it with confidence. And it's a very special deck, and it has her energy all over it. And actually, I just pulled this deck out, and the first card on top is the Ace of Cups card, the water we were talking about. So, they were just so easy to read because I don't know, it got me over whatever reservations I had about myself. And I love tarot because the energies around intuition can be very subtle. And when you pull a card, it's pretty tangible. And so I can't always say that I can interpret it, but it's easier when I'm reading for other people. I can usually read for myself, but having being able to say, I want a message now, and pulling a card is really powerful. And also just having that tangible thing, even if you get nothing else. Because sometimes I'll ask spirit a question, and I'll get just a sense or just a little niggling of something or silence. And it's
Mhm.
my way of being defiant sometimes. I'm going to pull a card. um,
Hilarious.
yeah. And so just like any other tool though, I just encourage people not to overuse it, because I also know that over inquiry, like I start getting bullshit from the guides. So like if
Yeah.
you're a little kid that keeps asking mom the same question over and over again, like I'm a sassy mom, and I'll start making stuff up just to get the kid,
Mhm.
or I'll say something funny or stupid. And so that's what I get. And if I'm not wise and spirit tells me something stupid, then I'm like, oh, really? I should go beat that person up, so you just have to know how to use it with discretion.
Yeah, I have had a lot of experience with intuition. Well, I guess interference disguised as intuition
Mm.
of not always with tarot. I do think sometimes tarot has interference, and that's where I was going to ask you if you have any practices of like cleaning the deck or just, doing a blessing or opening the space with intention. I don't always, to be honest, but I didn't know if you had any practices that sort of
Mm.
cleansed, I guess, the experience.
Yeah, I think for beginners, it's important to practice energy hygiene and spiritual
Hmm.
hygiene. I
Hmm.
didn't know to do that at first, and so I'd get a lot of garbage, and I didn't have a mentor, so I didn't know.
Yep.
Um, so this is the painful part, of spiritual awakening, right? Um, especially as it creates fallout in your life. I think, like I would sometimes keep, like a selenite crystal on the cards. You could also cleanse them with sage or something like that, or put them in the moonlight. Doing a good shuffle in between is always good. And if you're a Reiki practitioner, you could do Reiki on your cards. Um,
Mm.
I'm not at the point where I do that as much anymore because I know that my energy is very protected, and so I can tap in. But I feel like, for people who don't have that confidence in their grounding and protection, that having those rituals will help them build it. Will help them build.
Mhm.
And when you get to be um, seasoned, you may not have to do quite as much, and you can figure out what works for you. And I forgot to answer the question about the show. So I took a class in the community on psychic development, and I later invited that teacher to come give a talk at a community organization I helped to lead. And I said, oh, by the way, I'm teaching Claire's. And she's like, oh my God, call me. So she had been guided to start a new TV network. She's a tech executive by background. She was guided to start this. It's about spirituality, natural health, and uplifting content. So
Wow.
she invited me to be a show host. And so I have the tarot for Starseed, and there's another show that I've reworking called Spiritual Traveler. And so I hope I can start refilming that soon. But
Oh,
Ethereal's now on Amazon Fire and Roku, and it's becoming to Apple TV soon. So you can subscribe to it, although we're just now getting our shows loaded. So might want to wait till there's more shows up.
cool. So the network is called Ethereal.
Ethereal
Wow.
TV.
Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, what an amazing like offering. That's so cool. I love that. And you and I have talked a lot about the new earth and what that means. Would love to talk about what you see, feel, and know about what that term and what that concept and what that reality is.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of my favorite topics. So um, there's so many people hopeless right now, but I am just so overwhelmed with hope because I can just feel new earth energy. And I feel like a lot of us have already been moving into it. To me, and to many of us, I think I can say that we feel that new earth is a high vibe reality,
Mhm.
um, where peace, love, and joy are more the norms. Um, and I describe it as beloved community for everybody and everything. And so it's not necessarily just the things that we can see and touch and describe, but even things like air and vortex and water and the things that we might call dead or inanimate. um, and everyone is invited in, although I feel like what my understanding is that only some of us will be prepared to make the shift, that others are here for this current experience but not necessarily to shift into new earth. It's something that is happening very fast in geological time, but it might be feeling like very slow in terms of the lived reality here. Although energetically, like I just feel like spirit's yanking me up by the hair up a flight of stairs every day, you know. So like that's what it feels like to have your energy just sort of put through the washing machine by spirit. And I have just found that it's easier to go with that flow and to lean into it rather than resisting it, because then I'm fighting what is becoming, and I'm fighting what my soul's intention is. Um,
Mm.
and I feel like some of us who are shedding the old paradigms, the old beliefs and practices of old earth, is how we're moving into new earth.
Mhm.
But there's no roadmap, there's no guidebook. And so we're having to learn it experientially. And as those of us who are actively engaging in with the intention of moving into new earth, we're starting to learn, and we help each other because Marley's seeing one part of it, I'm seeing another part of it, we can compare notes, and it just makes it easier. And then the more and more of us that will come in to share notes and compare notes, the more easily we can move through it. And then we can also help others who are maybe a step behind us on this aspect of it, so we can eventually bring others in. And what I see eventually is that there's going to be groups of us or a group of us or I don't know what, but there will be sort of people who are going to identify, okay, this is where we're going with New Earth, and here's where we are now, and let's map out how we're going to get there. And if you think of it as a three-dimensional, like spokes on a wheel, it can become a multi-dimensional mandala, like an energetic map for how each sector of our country or world and cosmos like are going to be moving into this new energy. And so just by us like dreaming about it and talking about it, like we're forming the patterns for which we're going to then manifest from and pull into the reality. I mean, I sense the container already. I sense the grid, and there's an invitation, and there's a matrix there, and some of it is sort of in place energetically, but there's a lot of blank space that is for humanity to say, you know, this is what works for humanity. This is what works for humanity with Earth, with and for Earth, because she's very much the central part of it. It's new Earth after all. And also to some degree, like, here's how the cosmos play in, because just like, you know, when we're developmentally very young, you know, it's just us and our world. Humanity, I feel, is going to break out of this Earth centrism or national centrism or individual centrism, you know, egocentrism, and we're going to start really like realizing that we're part of the galactic community, and bringing that in. So just like when you know, we started to have the telephone and these other things, it changes our perspective when we can communicate and outside of our immediate surroundings.
Love. That resonates so deeply. I always say New Earth is a frequency, and it's achieved within. It's like through heart coherence and resonance of being able to see, feel, and know what is coming, and totally feel interconnected. There's so many movements and things happening around construction of the way we do things, and so much of it is in more alignment with ancient wisdom as to how we relate to the earth. It's all about relationality and reciprocity with how we work with the soil, how we work with the water, how we work with these beings that have been on earth since the beginning of time, and their wisdom in tandem with human wisdom, and really with humanity taking more of an observer, respecter, servant role than the egocentric role of the one, the evolutionary, the, you know, returning to listening and to being in sacred community, but also a real shedding of what is not actually beneficial to us, that we have seen as innovation and progress, but is actually debilitating our spirit and our psyche in really, really big ways. So I think it's like a mix of this ancient wisdom with using technology and using advancement in ways that can support life. Like everything is on the compass of life in New Earth. Like if it is not in alignment with the integrity and the energy of life, and when I say life, I mean all caps life, like the energy of creation, of everything that Earth is, everything that all non-human beings are, water, soil, us. If it's not in integrity to that and reciprocity, which is inherently aligned with equity, equity is the same as all of those things. So really, this idea that the energy of hierarchy doesn't survive has been present for me for a long time. And this idea that energy and understanding energy is the compass, and that everyone can access it. Everyone can be a part of New Earth. It is just strictly whether your soul chooses to take the path and walk the path of energetic awareness and energetic sovereignty, and cleansing your body of what really is holding. And again, it sounds like hierarchical, but like cleansing the things that don't You don't need to continue on your soul's journey and on your soul's path. And as you said before, it's all in divine timing. People, I think, are awakening now at a speed that is absolutely unprecedented. And what I've received around this time on Earth, when, I think 2012 was the switch between a 26,000 year masculine period to the divine feminine for 26,000 years. So we exist at the switch of the biggest change in energy in, many thousands of years. And then I think this is a hot ticket to be present for as we really usher in an entire new reality that is not based in matriarchy and like a different type of hierarchy, but based in the synergetics of the divine feminine and divine masculine coming in communion and equity and in reciprocity, and in divine sacred union.
Yep. Yep. That yin yang, flowing, balanced, inevitable, integrated. They're both inevitable.
Yeah. And I think you've kind of already answered this, but we always do end with, what do you see as the highest possible future for all beings?
Well, I mean, I just feel that all things move towards love, and everything is moving towards love, even if it feels like it's not. Sometimes it's stuff that's clearing. Um, and it may be, many, hundreds or thousands of years before, you and I might say, okay, this world is at love. But I feel like in my lifetime, even, I'm older than you, Marley, we're going to see substantial shifts. And like the newer generations, I understand, are already in the frequency. So, it might just simply mean that a few generations need to move to the side, and the prevalent energy will be this group of beautiful young starseed who are here to change the tenor and tone, and be our teachers of how to be in right relationship with ourselves and each other and earth and the loving force that connects us. And so I'm very excited and hopeful, and I feel like my role here is to try to get things in place for them, get things set up as much as I can, and invite them in and move to the side in a graceful way.
Wow, that's just beautiful. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. And I see this beautiful presence already coming through you and already coming through the work that you are doing. So thank you for bringing that to the world. And I also, David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force, he talks about levels of consciousness, and, Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene and Lord Krishna and Buddha held levels of consciousness that balanced out the entire rest of the globe's negativity. Like when we raise our consciousness as individuals, we are changing the frequency of the planet. So even if you're not doing maybe the work, or the work that you think you want to be doing yet, if you are working on yourself, you are changing the frequency of both within and without. So thank you so much, Sanna. You're such a gift. So grateful to have you here.
Thank you for you and the gifts you bring, including this podcast, and for your invitation to share today.